So Jacob and I watched Halloween H2O 20 years later recently, and I think we have a few things to say about it. First of all, how are you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing well. It's good to know that it's supposed to be said H2O and not H20.
I think the world just agreed it was H2O. I don't know. I call it H. I think it's H2O. I've
This
been
is the
saying that all my
problem.
life.
I don't know why anyone would say H20, but the connotations of H2O over H20 confuse the fuck out of me. So I was waiting for water, especially because I think the tagline mentions water as well. a- And it has nothing to fucking do with the movie.
Well, I've always had a soft spot for this movie. I do really enjoy it. It came out in the prime, the peak of the postmodern slasher. The ones that took after Scream and Kevin Williamson's materials, which makes sense because like right off the bat, Halloween H2O is based on a treatment that Kevin Williamson wrote, and I think his title was probably better. It was Halloween 7: The Revenge of Laurie Strode.
Yeah, that's a
and
pretty good one. That'd be a
I,
good fucking title.
and it works because it seems like Kevin Williamson, not that Final Girls never had like agency or weren't kind of empowered in certain ways, but that's definitely been one of Williamson's aims with each of his horror movies, is to kind of partly reinvigorate, if not reinvent, the final girl. So of course he wants to give Laurie Strode some credit, but of course his original treatment still included like the Thorn trilogy of Halloween's 4 through 6,
Mm.
and so I guess it was rewritten or whatever. But what I've been able to read and like gather, investigate is that Kevin Williamson was basically a Johnny on the spot kind of script doctor. He was there up until the very end, rewriting, reworking dialogue, reworking certain scenes and the way they were laid out, the ways that they were laid out, and like he was there the entire time, and you can kind of feel it. It's kind of an unofficial Kevin Williamson analysis because he's not credited at all in any capacity. But even when you read online, like Jamie Lee Curtis was going to leave the project unless Williamson fixed certain parts of the script. Like he was a pretty significant person behind the scenes there. And this film does. It's interesting to do Halloween H2O because out of all like the big classic boogeymen of the time period, it seems like Michael's the only one who really got involved in
Yes,
a
I noticed
post-Scream
something.
universe.
I
Yeah,
noticed that too, that this is the only proper sequel
yeah,
of like a long existing property. Like obviously Scream 2 existed, but like
yeah. But Jason stayed out of it. Freddy stayed out of it.
yeah,
Leatherface stayed
exactly.
out of it.
At least
Like
until like what? When did Freddy versus Jason come out? Like
that was
2001?
like 2000 some. I'm not sure. At least with Leatherface, he came back in 2003 for
But by
his
that point
remake,
it
and
was like the vibe was completely different.
yeah, that was the return period for sure. Return to form for the genre. Michael is the only one who got his hands dirty, who thought that they could. And I couldn't really imagine. Maybe Freddy could have done something cool with a postmodern trick or two. I mean, New
Well,
Nightmare is a
yeah, I was
postmodern
gonna say
trick. Yeah,
pretty much he did, but it was, if anything, he kind of initiated unofficially,
yeah.
maybe, or kind of like an early stage of it, an incubation period for it.
Yeah, I give Kevin Williamson so much credit. Some would argue like way too much credit, but I think New Nightmare, at least Wes Craven, deserves a lot of credit for the fetus of introducing, like directly introducing postmodern ideas in horror. And from New Nightmare, you can get all the way to Final Destination probably, but we're right in the thick of it here. We're right in the prime. We're in 1998. We're in the year of the urban legend, and we have Halloween H2O. And remind me, because when we both revisited this movie, I did it like today and you did it a couple days ago. I watched this movie a lot growing up. I love it. I love the whatever. It's just a lot of nostalgia for me. It's one of my first horror movies. But I watched Halloween 2 first, the original Halloween 2, the
Mm.
Rick Rosenthal film, and then this one. Does the first Halloween, I haven't seen it in a little while, or at least I don't have like a photographic like memory of it. Does it start off with the bum 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 Mr. Sandman? Does it start off with that
N-
song?
no, it does not. Actually, the only music you ever hear in the original is the theme
Okay,
song.
because
The
Halloween 2 starts off with that song.
Halloween starts with it with like immediately, like you like I press play, and the second you hit play, you it's just a dark screen, but you hear the theme song. The
Right, yeah, that's why I was telling you I think Halloween 2 might be a better double
Yeah,
set for this
because that's
movie.
what I did. I doubled Halloween 1 and Halloween H2O and got so much whiplash. I think I broke something. You know, just this quiet, low budget, meticulous movie with one like looping theme song that plays. That's probably like 30 seconds long. Takes place in in two houses, a couple street corners, and then I just went straight into H2O, and I just hear Mr. Sandman with the sweeping long take,
Yeah.
color
So
graded to hell and back. I was like, oh my god.
I think the film looks fine. But I
Oh, it
just wanted to
does.
point out
I
that
just meant like it was so different.
oh, I agree. And H2O starts off with the same song that Halloween 2 starts off with. I was just curious if Halloween did the same things. I don't
No,
like
no,
vividly
no.
remember. The
There are
beginning is just the pumpkin going out, right? Like the pumpkin, like
yeah, yeah. It's
getting,
a zoom
yeah.
in on the pumpkin, and then I forget where. I already forget. I watched it literally.
Probably just POV. Michael kills his family. But
Oh yes, yes, yes. That is what it is. It's
I'm like
I'm
saying
an
that
idiot.
so like arbitrarily. Now
No,
let's
no,
talk
like
about the
that
real
is.
masterpiece, Halloween H2O, and this shit starts. I do want to say this is directed by a kind of slasher sequel juggernaut here. I believe at least he did like two Friday the 13th movies. I really like at least. He did Friday the 13th Part 3 and Part 2. I think Part 2 is really, really, really good. And Steve Miner is his name, and he directs this movie. Out of nowhere, seemingly. He seems to be perfectly fine with it. We'll go into specifics more. I do want to talk about the opening scene of Halloween H2O with our best friend Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, this actually is my favorite part of the movie.
Is it?
Um, yeah, yeah, and a movie that I'm otherwise kind of mixed on.
This movie does have one of my favorite slasher deaths, but it's not this
It
one.
really okay. I'm not sure what you're referring to then. Unless you're referring to like the end of the movie, but
No, no, I'll go
oh,
into it.
then I'm curious. But no, this opening is pretty great. It's pretty
It is.
great.
There is a great line from him when he's investigating the house that his neighbor says has been broken into, or clearly has been broken into. He's got that hockey stick, and he's like, "Little Jimmy's already been suspended twice over getting a little frisky with the stick," something like that. Oh man. Um, but basically, like 2 out of 3 people have off-screen deaths almost. He gets like a skate shoved into his face, and
Yeah, yeah.
his friend, you always have to have the spiky-haired friend in one of these movies from back then. Just I guess gets stabbed in the back. I don't know. He just falls dead on her, and then we get a throat cut. But I mean, just overall, it's a decent beginning. I think it's a decent beginning. I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the saving grace of that beginning.
Oh yeah,
Um,
like I said, this was where the movie peaked for me. This was I don't know.
uh,
I really dug the whole vibe of the opening. I thought it was a lot of fun.
it was a good vibe, and the cops are these are exceptionally terrible cops. It looks like it starts off as the day at daytime, and the cops get there at night. Um,
This is of course a long running thing for Halloween because
yes,
they're equally ineffectual in the first movie.
at least they're like visible and driving around with Donald Pleasance,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but still,
They spend the whole movie just I don't buy this, and then they're just lazily driving around picking up kids getting high.
and
In this, two houses have a broken window and bodies hanging out. And they're like, I don't know what. I'm going home. But
and Halloween H2O, I think Uh, it has a decent reputation among Halloween fans, but it used
Yeah,
to have a much better one before Halloween 2018 came out because it seems like Halloween 2018 took this one's place.
it,
Well, not just in the timeline, but just as a revenge story for Laurie Strode, which has never really sat right with me because it's like Halloween 2018 literally gives us batshit crazy Laurie Strode, whereas I kind of prefer her as a pretty successful headmistress of a kind of elite private school. I don't know why. I don't know why I
I do have
enjoy that.
I do have questions about that, although I suppose like Halloween lore, I shouldn't get too into it, but I did have questions about that because I think timeline wise, her son is born within like 2 years of Halloween 1, and then she gets divorced and then goes becomes a headmistress
Yeah.
while also faking her death. And I'm like, damn, Laurie's lived a full life, I guess. Laurie's going
Well,
for
then
it.
we
But
shouldn't have that weird false dichotomy of she's either this like intensely successful headmistress or batshit crazy girl in a
well,
cabin. Like that's kind of
this is why I think Zombies Halloween 2 is probably the best representation of how Laurie goes after the events. But nonetheless, I still think it's I kept thinking how funny it was that 1998 gave us, well, this is what really happened. This is the true sequel to Halloween. And then 2 decades after that, they said,
yeah.
finally, the true sequel. And I'm expecting in 20 years, Jamie Lee's going to do the same thing again.
Halloween's already got like four different timelines
I
involved. It's
know
more complicated than Marvel or the Terminator combined.
it's more complicated than X-Men, and I still can't figure
Yeah,
that shit out. But
yeah, it
it's
is. But I need to just say I view Rob Zombie's films as invalid and then move on from that.
uh,
Um, but no, but you are right that Rob Zombie H2O and Halloween 2018. I would say Halloween 2 as well, Rick Rosenthal's film, all deal with
yeah,
like PTSD, post traumatic stress,
yeah, all four
in their
kind of
own ways.
have a different take on it.
Yeah. And in this one, Laurie is definitely, I mean, well, Josh Hartnett, her son, John, calls her a functional alcoholic, and we see her drink a fucking lot all throughout this movie, which also takes place just in one day on Halloween.
Mm.
Um, she drinks a lot. She's not really she's not really well adjusted, although this film does kind of justify her fears. But also we get that cool scene of Michelle Williams' character uh, interpreting Frankenstein, and this feels like a Williamson scene for sure.
It it is also a callback vaguely to a scene from the first movie, because the first movie has early on Laurie's in class and she's the one being asked a
Yeah.
question about the book they were reading, and Laurie says goes on a monologue about fate.
Doesn't it
Um,
happen in the exact same way too? Like she looks
Pretty
out the
much,
window and sees Michael, and
yes.
then yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same scene. I don't think it's Frankenstein. I forget what it was in Halloween 1, but it's same concept is coming across.
I
Oh
do
well,
like what's said
it's a
in
little
that scene.
different.
I do like the idea that like that Laurie Strode is to blame for this monster. I mean, I'm just you just have to extrapolate that obviously the film is making a comment on itself more so than Frankenstein, but that Laurie Strode created this monster and she was left with no other option but to face him because she, she allowed the fear of Michael Myers to destroy every single thing that she loves. To completely invade her life and then she was kind of still just living as a victim of Michael Myers, so she had no other choice but to stand up to him, which she does at the end. But like we'll get there. But that if it doesn't feel the reason why it feels so much like a Williamson scene as well is that Michelle Williams is one of the stars of Dawson's Creek, plays Jen on the show,
Yeah,
and her her speech pattern when she's explaining this in kind of like um, a, a miniature postmodern diatribe sounds like a Williamson thing, especially since she's the one delivering it. But
mm,
let's talk about these four kids because I do like them. I do like our four new kids. In fact, I would if possible, I would simp for Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. like all day if I can. She played Sarah in the movie. She's incredible. She's great. And if you grew up in the 90s, early 2000s, you kind of know her as the mega bitch in every single movie. Like She's All That and certain television shows and stuff like
And
that.
she gets the roughest, I
That's
think.
she's my favorite,
Oh, it
definitely.
is. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we'll cover her in probably like 10 minutes. But just want to say oh my God, I think she's outrageously attractive and just a good character. But attraction shouldn't end there. We have Josh Hartnett with the most perfect late
Yeah.
'90s hair I've ever seen. It's still
It's the
Faculty.
same. It's the same goddamn hair from Faculty, and I still don't know why he looks like kind of cool in it. Uh,
Yeah,
Josh Hartnett's the weirdest guy. I don't. And this is his debut, right? This was his
yeah.
first movie.
It does say and introducing.
Yeah. So this was probably
Um,
like
I do
very
love
shortly before the
LL
Faculty.
Cool J. Ladies love Cool James telling him, "Comb your damn hair."
Oh, LL Cool J is my favorite part of this movie. He's the character with the most coherent arc in this movie, which is
He
he
really
starts
does.
out writing really bad dialogue, but then he takes I think his wife's advice and makes really good dialogue.
Yeah, he does.
That's my favorite arc. That's my favorite arc in the movie. It only
Good
happens
for
across
LL.
like 3 scenes too, I think, but nonetheless.
Yeah, and if Kevin Williamson wrote the sequel, it would be like him on a book tour for a very
Oh yeah,
successful
yeah.
erotic thriller.
Yeah, exactly.
But that didn't happen. Somehow Rick Rosenthal directed the worst Halloween movie by far with Resurrection, but less said about that one the better. The one that
God, I
immediately
haven't even
followed
seen
this
it.
one.
I haven't even seen it. Is Jamie Lee in that?
Yeah, sure.
Is she?
Um, she's not
Oh
happy
wait,
to be there.
I think I actually know what happens to it. I did
That one
hear that.
has a fucking Busta Rhymes, Tyra Banks, Thomas Ian Nicholson or Nicholas, whatever his name is from American
Yeah.
Pie. It's a bad movie, but Halloween H2O is a good movie in my opinion. The four kids are cool. I want to say that Sarah's boyfriend, Jodie Lynn O'Keefe's boyfriend, is the. I didn't look it up because I just like feel like I know that this is true. He's like young Robin Williams in Jumanji, I think, before he
Really?
gets sucked into the game. Maybe I'm wrong. I think that's him. He has the same look to him. And
I just looked him up. He has a credit for Jumanji, so I think you're
that's it.
right.
Oh, right. Excellent. That was him.
Damn,
Um,
good one.
not an extremely likable character, but fits the archetype fine. These archetypes are worked out fine. In fact, the character with the least characterization is somehow Michelle Williams's character. And
Yeah,
I really don't know why it seems to insist on her in the scene we were just talking about and then not give us any more interiority
right.
like beyond that. Um, but
Well,
she was extremely young in this film too.
yeah.
Like so she was still, I think, like under 18 in the first season of Dawson's Creek. I'm not entirely. She was the youngest. I know that, and this was like a year after Dawson's Creek's first season. She was probably like 18 in this movie.
Hmm.
So it's kind of bizarre. Josh Hartnett, I think, kills it. I think Jamie Lee Curtis kills it too, but there's a really cool scene between the two of them. Oh yeah, and let me just bring up like the kind of shit they hint at. Like, not only did you point out the timeline of Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis having to have faked her own death, like doing all of that within such a short amount of time, climbing that weird social
Also the fact that
legal ladder.
the whole dying in a car crash thing, I believe happens in the movie where she's supposed to have another kid.
Yeah, and
So,
that's the timeline that Williamson was originally working from, and like Jamie, who was played by a woman we love, Danielle Harris, as a young child star. She's supposed to have been like dead or something, but they completely wrote out that Thorn trilogy. But whatever.
yeah.
There's also something else Josh Hartnett says of like they talk about whoever his dad is for a moment, and apparently he's an alcoholic methadone addict who's abusive, and it's like shit, man, that's
Yeah.
fucked up. That is fucking fucked. Um, Laurie is an alcoholic in this movie, and there's a really well acted scene between them. And then, by the way, that's like what I just brought up. Like fits the pattern of PTSD. Oftentimes, um, people find themselves in these kind of situations, uh, uh, just repeatedly, I guess. Uh, go into it further later if need be, but there's a really well acted scene between the two of them when she catches him out buying liquor or something,
Oh yeah,
and they're
yeah, yeah, yeah.
screaming at each other on a street corner. And Josh Hartnett actually has some fucking decent line deliveries of I don't mean to say actually has. I think he's a decent actor overall, but he's just I'm sick and tired of taking care of you. Michael Myers is dead. Like I'm sick of like it's actually really good. I mean, imagine being John. It's
Mm.
like every single year, you know, you're not allowed to celebrate this one holiday. But not only that, your mother probably goes insane and is a drunken mess for that entire day, if not all the time. That can't be easy on a kid. So
Yeah, yeah.
he has one little act of rebellion, and it just reinforces everything his mother is afraid of. But man, I think we're moving past because there's a lull here of like 45 minutes without a kill.
Yeah, this is
Um,
the movie feels really short to me, which is
it is
funny
short.
because
It is under an
it's
hour and a half.
yeah, it's the same length as the original movie, but this one just felt like God, like a 45 minutes. It
Because
felt so short to me.
it blew by because it's so brilliant.
I really wasn't expecting it to be over when it ended. I thought there was like another half hour. I was surprised, but it does the early scenes fly for it, especially
And there is a
once.
scene that reminds me of Halloween 2018 where the mother and the daughter are in like a rest stop bathroom, and like Michael Myers comes inside of it to steal their car keys or her purse or whatever. That's that's brought back in 2018, but of course in a far
I haven't
messier
actually
way.
seen the 2018 movie. I'm not
Okay.
super interested in it. I'm sure we'll end up talking about it at some point.
Oh, I didn't. I don't really like it, but
Oh yeah. I
yeah. But that scene is. I feel like it's a callback when 2018 does it to this one. But apart from that, we can go to some kills now. We're gonna dive into Laurie Strode after we talk about these kills. I think that's really where, if there's meat to take off of the bone that is H2O, it's Laurie Strode.
oh yeah.
But let's talk about the I'm gonna call him Jumanji Kid. Jumanji Kid is our
Jumanji
first
Kid.
one to go of this group here, and I, I don't know like what Williamson helped write. I just hope he didn't write the whole. There's a lot of weird fucking dialogue too. Of
Which one?
um they're like taking all this like food from the cafeteria because they snuck into the building, pretended they
Yeah.
all went on a trip to Yosemite, but there's like Jodie Lynn O'Keefe goes, hope you don't mind if I just get bloated and fat and disgusting when I'm older because I love food. And he's like, I love obese women. Oh, you're so
Jesus Christ.
Renaissance.
Jesus.
And I think here's how you know Kevin Williamson was involved, because I think this was a way of saying thank you, is that Jodie Lynn O'Keefe and Michelle Williams are watching Scream 2 in their room,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
their
I
dorm
caught
room.
that. Sarah Michelle Gellar scene.
Yeah. I think that's like a little Easter egg thank you to Kevin Williamson's input. Or
Mm.
that's a very Williamson-ism to be like,
To
I'll write this
actually
scene.
literally reference your own movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
No one consented to that. He just said, "Yeah, and they're watching Scream 2." And they said, "Did they have to?" And it's like, "Yeah, no, they're watching Scream 2."
Yeah. He inserted himself in a
Which
horror legacy movie.
which is funny to think about in context because that was what, like a year before.
Yeah, it was right.
So
Yeah,
it's like if God, like like the new Halloween movie comes out and they show a clip from Midsummer in the background.
exactly.
It's
Like it's
so
very
weird.
recent.
It's
Oh
so
man.
weird.
But then they joke and say they're gonna go roofie some guys and have a date rapey evening
Yeah.
because this is 1998 and times were different. Um, but thank God for Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. I think she just makes every line at least likable to listen to. But
Mm.
Jumanji Kid, technically an off-screen death, but they do that thing where they play with he drops a wine bottle opener in the sink, and you think
Yeah,
his
yeah, yeah.
hand's
That
gonna
was
get, yeah. And then he gets up and looks and runs right into Michael Myers, and you see his reflection in Michael Myers' eyeballs, which Do you
We
want to go on your little tirade right now?
I don't have much of a tirade. I just think it looks silly. I realize what it is, why it was jarring to me, because nothing about Michael actually looks different in the movie. It's just Michael. It's not a complex design. It's that I had just watched obviously the original movie where his eyes are drenched in shadow in every shot, and it's hard to identify him as a human being. And which makes sense to me because part of my reading of the original film is that it's Carpenter's first Lovecraft movie. So it's like he's not human, he's a monster. But so I was like, why does Michael look weird to me in this movie? I couldn't figure it out for so long, and then I think it was near the end. It was near the end of the movie where I realized, oh, it's because I can see his eyes.
Mm.
It's just it was so weird to me. It's because he's actually just well lit. Like you can see his face clearly. It's
Yeah,
not that it
not
looks
necessarily
bad.
the blackest. Well, it's not the blackest eyes anymore. I can understand that.
Yeah. It's like you can see the person underneath. So he becomes more like God. I don't know, the Jason or something. But it's not that it's bad. Like I'm not like a purist by any stretch. Obviously, I don't like the 2007 Halloween. I don't give a shit about the purity of the series, but it's just weird to me. I was so confused watching the movie why he looked so awkward to me, and I think that was it. I don't know if that says more about me having just watched the original film and there being a disconnect, or if that was something other people felt. I don't know if there was any discourse about Michael Myers' design at any point in the history of the series.
And I think that's a valid criticism. I'm not going to attempt to dispute it. But when I think of Michael Myers, right now, since I just watched Halloween 2, one of my favorite Michael Myers moments is when he starts bleeding out of his eyeballs. So it's almost
Oh
directly
yeah, yeah,
connected to his eyeballs. But
yeah.
also with Steve Miner, that when you pointed that out to me, that you can, because it didn't really phase me ever that I could see his eyes. But when you pointed it out to me, I'm like, oh, because I vividly remember Jason in Friday the 13th Part 2 with like the one eye socket, one eye hole for his eyeball, and how clearly you can see that one eyeball. And then even when he gets his hockey mask in the third one, both of which Steve Miner directed, you can very clearly see these two like incredibly normal looking human eyeballs behind it. And
Mm.
I think it's a Steve Miner thing
It might
of,
be.
and it might, but you might still be right in that Steve Miner is like not deliberately, but just maybe misunderstanding the idea of a deified boogeyman and
I don't know if
trying.
it's misunderstanding, because I do think Michael in Carpenter's vision is like I called him like the Wheatley brother from Dunwich Horror, like he's like just this used to be human and then he just mutated and became like this demonic entity, whether it clarifies that as literally something in the film or not. Um, because he never dies. You shoot him, you stab him in the neck, he doesn't die. But
Yeah,
I
he's Moby Dick of horror, but I think Jason shares that with him too.
yeah, he does, and I think in H2O he's kind of like Ghostface, where he's just a completely ineffectual killer.
But I think that's where you see, yeah, the
It
'90s.
is kind of funny to me that I don't know if I think it's like effective as part of the text. I just think it's funny to watch a serial killer who's totally incapable of being a good serial killer. Because Michael eats shit in this movie
Yeah, he
constantly.
does.
At
But
least in the second half, he constantly just gets it handed to him.
but this is my favorite era of horror, this postmodern era that we've been calling it, that
Mm.
ran from what, like 94, 95 to 2002 or something.
Yeah,
It's like
roughly.
my favorite. It's my favorite era. So sacrifices had to be made for Michael, and he was the only one man enough to be like, okay.
Oh yeah, like I said, I'm by no means a purist. I say do what you want with the text. Carpenter's film exists. What are you gonna do? Just
And
keep
while
making it again
H2O,
forever?
yeah, H2O isn't my favorite Halloween, but it's the one I have the most fondness for and the most fun watching.
I can see that.
But to get to where I really want to go, the part that actually freaked me out as a kid. So Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, my '90s dream girl, she's next on the list. She finds, and it's also one of my favorite slasher movies, movie deaths up there with Parker and Damon and Carter from Final Destination, and what Scream 2, like Randy's, like it's up there, and she finds her boyfriend Hold on, let me take a sip of this drink. Extremely dry throat. This is what people like to
Yeah,
listen to,
same.
I think. Oh, God. But finds her boyfriend with his throat cut in the elevator, which, like, already Michael's just recycling how he kills people. But that's like the second or third slit throat we've got. But okay, so Jodie Leno keeps death. Sarah's death. It's fucked me up for so long.
It is
So she
brutal,
sees
actually.
Michael
Yeah.
coming, and she hides in the elevator going up. And Michael does get her like in the side a little bit with his huge kitchen knife. And she starts going up. And I love that they set up this elevator as this thing like earlier with Michelle Williams doing dish work or something for the school. I have no idea what she was doing, but I think she was doing some job thing
Yeah,
where they first
she was. She
introduced this.
was.
Yeah, and she
Chekhov's
goes up to the
elevator.
top, and she starts crawling out of the elevator, and like her dead boyfriend's corpse is like her her pant leg is snagging on his body, and she's having just a little bit of difficulty getting out of it. So Michael cuts the rope for this elevator thing, which is something you put like dirty dishes in to bring it back down, in case
Yeah.
anyone's having trouble remembering this, even though I'm probably
It's been
showing
in
an image.
so many horror movies. So
Yeah, but it's never been done to this visceral effect, and what I'm talking about right now, when the elevator falls back down and fucking destroys,
dashes.
demolishes her leg, like her ankle, really, like the middle, whatever, dude. The leg. Help me out, anatomy majors. I'm too grossed out right now. It's the leg. It just fucking almost snaps directly off. You see her crawling on the floor, and they show like her completely mangled leg, and mangled is probably an understatement as well. I mean, it's almost off. It's hanging on by like a bare piece of flesh. And it's fucking, I remember being a lot, I mean, the sting hasn't dissipated at all, but watching it when I was younger, just being like, that's such a visceral fucking horror moment for me. And like, it's one of those things that like psychosomatically, I don't know, psychologically, I always reach down at my leg or something when I see that scene, because it makes you like, you feel a phantom pain from that. Like you just feel it. It's just a really great moment. And she's crawling, and Michael just took the fucking stairs, I guess. And he's towering. It's one of the only times Michael feels like a deified thing, maybe, too.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, she gets this very harsh, and we don't necessarily understand the geography of where they are. Like, we didn't know there was just an available staircase right there. I don't know. But he's right there again, and she's crawling and begging for her life, Williamson-esque style. And Michael like holds her down, pins her down with his like leg, like she's a dying animal, and just hacks her to death with a knife. It's really, I think, it's the most brutal fucking death of the movie. Sarah got it the worst by far. Like, it's not even a contest of who got the worst death. It's Sarah. The other ones are either off screen, or they're kind of uncharacteristically bloodless, or with
Mm.
as little blood as possible, because they're normally kind of quick in this movie. What did you think of her death?
I'm pretty much the same. I don't know. Most of the deaths in this movie didn't get me. I was almost worried it was going to be a little too sanitized. That scene happened. The shot of her leg when she's crawling
Yeah.
on the floor. Just I was like, oh God, that's rough. That's rough. I
And
can't say
that's
I was as attached to her as you were. I actually
it's
think
just
most
me
of the
being a
kids.
gross man. I just thought she was really hot.
I I I thought most of the three of them out like the teens outside of Josh Hartnett needed more screen time, I think. But
Michelle
what was
Williams,
it?
at the very least, needed some
Yeah,
interiority. I at least
I
knew the other archetypes. I couldn't even place her like as
yeah,
virginal as anything. I didn't know anything about her.
I felt like they were just kind of lined up for the slaughter before inevitably Jamie Lee Curtis comes in and does her thing. Nonetheless, like it's still a brutal death. It's hard to watch.
I
As
love
we
that. It's one of my favorites in horror history, or like the stuff I like in horror. It's one of my
yeah,
favorites from this time period, I should say.
yeah,
There's some outrageously great deaths in horror history. Got to watch my words. This is one of my favorite postmodern Scream era deaths for sure.
yeah.
One of the most brutal deaths to come of that time
Well,
period.
I will say there's one other part that's not actually a death, but you're led to think it was a death that I thought was way more brutal.
I think we'll get there in like one
Yeah,
second.
you
I'm
know what
just
I
going
mean.
to,
There's one,
yeah.
I think there's one more we're missing, right? Or
Yeah, yeah, we got another death, but another fake out death and then another real death, like that happened simultaneously. But we're gonna get there right after I just say really quick that I do like the costume design on this movie a lot, which isn't something I say of Halloween movies ever. I like their prep school outfits a lot.
yeah,
I like the color schemes of the prep school itself.
yeah.
I do like it. I know the color grading or whatever was manipulated to all hell, but I think it
Oh
worked
no,
worked
for the
wonders.
record, I brought that up more as like every movie did it at this point in time. So
Okay.
it was more like I brought it up like because the original movie was again very low budget, very kind of
I
shot
thought
on location.
everyone's costumes were amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, and we got to talk about this too, really quick. I thought that Jamie, not about Jamie Lee Curtis's outfits. I thought that she looked great, but it was going to lead me to go. I love her and Janet Leigh acting together. That was it. I love
Oh
her
yeah,
and her
yeah, yeah.
mother having that scene, especially when her mother says the line that is directly reminds you of what time period we are with Scream, where she goes, "If I could dare to be maternal for a moment," and it's like, oh my god, wonderful. These are not only two iconic not final girls, but Scream queens,
Decidedly
and
not for one of them.
and it's a mother and a daughter, and it's this. It was just a really really nice scene, seeing them together, and she's trying to get her, you know. Every bad things happen to all of us. You have to focus on today. But hey, today's the worst day of your life, am I right? Like that's essentially what that scene was. But it was good, and it was really tender seeing them act together. I love seeing, like, I think they did that in The Fog, maybe a few times as well, but Carpenter did that for them with The Fog as well. I always like seeing them together. But now, oh, I have to say one more thing, because that's not the last time we see how punished Jodie O'Keefe's character was, because she's also like, Michael just fucking hates Sarah, or everybody on this movie hated Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, because he has her like attached to a light fixture in a storage closet, I guess, and they open, when they're running away from Michael, they like open it and turn on the light, and the light is like inside of her fucking like chest, like her disemboweled chest, and you see the light shining through it, and she's hanging from it with her dangled, mangled leg as well. Like, that's fucked up. That's fucked up. Poor Sarah. But you could frame this next one for us, because now we are at the LL Cool J, and in my opinion, kind of creepy guidance counselor.
Oh, Laurie's boyfriend. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that guy was weird. No, yeah, because God, what happens is they think LL Cool J is Michael, and so the boyfriend takes Laurie's gun and unloads every bullet on him, and then you just
yeah,
see LL Cool J dead on the ground. And I just thought, Jesus Christ! Like,
yeah.
that was the one where I thought, like, oh my God, the most likable character in this movie, and he just gets brutaled in the dumbest way. And then, of course, the guidance counselor boyfriend gets Michaeled, gets stabbed, and I kind of felt nothing on that one. But
Yeah, and his only direction as an actor, I think, was to just shake uncontrollably.
and prior to that scene was his motivation was you want to fuck Laurie, and that's kind of
Yeah,
just his vibe in every scene.
that's it.
He's she's revealing like this decades long held trauma to him, and he's like, can you please get undressed for me? I was like, oh my God, fuck this guy.
Yeah, yeah, I don't like they set his character up as such a fucking like middle-aged, horny psychologist. There's already a trope you shouldn't trust, and then he's like checking up on like these teenage girls in their dorm and joking with them about date rape. Like, I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't like
it's
this guy. I don't like him.
just the creepiest guy. I didn't really feel much about that one. I would hope Laurie didn't either. But LL Cool J didn't deserve that. God.
Well, they made it so that you did not care that he died right there, because if we all
Because
love
he
ladies
killed
love cool.
LL Cool J. Yeah,
Yeah.
why would I feel bad for the guy that killed him? It's I don't know. I think that's the shit that gets me most in horror movies is the random meaningless deaths. Like he wasn't even killed by Michael. It wasn't part of anything
Oh
else. He
well.
was just like capped in a hallway by an idiot. And
exactly.
he gets
No, yeah.
he gets departed, and he
He gets departed. Yeah, they
which
should make that
the
a thing.
departed is like my benchmark for like what I mean when I'm talking about those kinds of deaths. But yeah, of course he comes back later, but so it's a fake out. It's a very good fake out, I think. But
He gets he gets random bus in Final Destination.
yeah, exactly. The most brutal death in Final Destination for me because it's like she didn't deserve that.
Oh man, we skipped it, but I do love this one part. I do like the chase that ensues between Josh Hartnett, Michelle Williams, and Michael Myers. But it also does show that like
Yeah, this is where it
Michael
starts.
eats shit. Because like
This
he gets pummeled in the back by Michelle Williams with a rock and gets punched in the face a few times. And like Michael is damaged. Michael is hurt. But there is a really cool part where they're like behind a gate or something. There's like a gate with a door, and Michael
yeah.
is like shoving his knife in there, and like you can see like they're just barely not just getting just sliced to death.
Yeah, that
And
was a
I
good
do
one.
the moment where Laurie Strode lets them in and looks through the window on the door at Michael's face and very clear eyeballs. They like that face to face moment. Oof,
Mm.
that's good. That's good. I get that. That's good. But now I'm gonna let you take it away for a second. You have a bunch of things you can talk about here because we should talk about Laurie Strode as a character, talk about Michael eating shit for this entire part. Um,
God,
yeah, wherever
it's
you want to
the
go.
it's the thing of I guess in any other Halloween movie, Michael does eat shit, but like he fakes you out about it. Like in any other Halloween movie, Michelle Williams would have hit him in the head. They think they broke his skull. He'd be on the ground and like I guess he's dead, and they just come out and stab
Yeah.
him. In this one, they just beat the shit out of him. He's like like he's just groaning and getting his ass kicked by a teenager.
And not even
It's
five
so
minutes
funny.
later, Laurie Strode hits him in the
Lori,
head with a fire
which
extinguisher.
to be fair, in that one, I get what they're going for. That one I think is a little more reasonable in context, which is that they set up that she's going to do the same thing she did in the original movie, and then she
Well, still,
doesn't do
might as
it.
well drop an anvil on him at some point.
Yeah, exactly. I'm willing to take that one more than Josh Hartnett like taekwondoing this Michael Myers, but
Oh, you ain't
Laurie's.
seen Resurrection yet, dude.
Oh, I might not.
Busta
But like
Rhymes literally taekwondos him. Like,
actually, I
that's not
think
a
I've
joke.
seen that clip. I think I have.
All right. But I think I love that about 90s, not the fucking taekwondo thing. I need to like work on when I say things. Um, okay.
I know
I
what you
like
mean.
that.
I know what
I
you
like that
mean.
he has his divinity, if you want, like stripped away from him, and it's almost
Yeah,
given to Laurie. Like Laurie to me almost becomes deified in this movie.
yeah, a little bit.
It's like inversed in a
Mm.
really cool postmodern way that like Michael should fear Laurie. This is obviously Laurie's reckoning. It's Michael's reckoning and it's Laurie's revenge. I do feel that, especially when she tells the kids to go and she grabs a fucking axe and she just stands there and screams Michael's name, like
Yeah.
come get some. Like I'm in the parking lot if you want to get your ass kicked. Like,
This is where for me the movie kind of shifts from being trying to be like legitimately sympathetic to like what Laura's going through to becoming like borderline cartoonish, but in a way I find completely appealing.
yes, I find it
I
appealing
mean,
and endearing actually.
I yeah, like I don't love it. Like I said, I don't love it, but like that's where I'm like, all right, at least you're leaning into it. At least you're really just owning it and leaning into it.
These movies are all about like empowering your final girl, and she almost
Yeah,
has like superhuman abilities at the end to where they can like the tropes bend and break at their whims, at their
yeah.
will. They can rearrange a fucking horror movie in the last 10 minutes.
For me, that's kind of why I don't entirely take seriously or sympathize with the way it tries to approach her PTSD, just because it goes to that place of cartooniness. But I
Like
also
if you do
respect it.
like you yeah, I don't think you can respect it, but since I do consider this a postmodern horror movie, and like I don't
Yeah,
think
it's kind of just the nature of it. Like I don't
yeah,
know.
like
There,
it's actually more sympathetic to view it as the trope dealing with PTSD of like the final girl's
Exactly,
been so
exactly.
abused over and over again, not necessarily like a real life woman, but the trope itself has been so abused and misused and
Yes, yes.
mistreated. And this is like the final girl being given an axe, and she gets the fucking, I don't want to. I mean, it doesn't matter. We're talking about the whole ending. Like, she gets to
Yeah,
chop off the fucking head. No mercy, motherfucker. Like,
yeah.
this is the final girl's day, really. And I like that so much. I do love this movie. It's just
Mm,
Halloween is a fucking beautiful. It's a beautiful movie. It's a completely the different. It's very different.
yeah.
But the chase, right? I do think that it is still like pretty intense. I like Laurie Strode hiding underneath
My
the
my
folding
favorite part
tables.
my favorite part of that is Michael walking down it like flipping all the tables.
Yeah, he's like,
That
I'm
that
done.
that
I'm done.
that shot, it was pretty funny. Uh,
It's good shit.
again, some of the shit they do to Michael in this movie is so funny to me. It's so funny.
And then we
It's
see LL Cool J come back to life
yeah,
because like
yeah.
Laurie
The only
Strode like kills him like 5 times in this movie, in my opinion. Like stabs him a million times, kicks him off of this huge ledge, watches him just like smash his skull into this hard floor, and she goes back down there to like make sure he's dead. And LL Cool J, we still got him. We still got him.
he it's
Thank God.
it's I feel like I'm gonna guess people got like amped up in the theater back in the day at Laurie Strode going sicko mode on Michael. But for me, if I had been in that theater when LL Cool J, I would have stood up. I would have gone hype that more than Laurie like decapitating Michael. I would have been like, yeah, fucking LL Cool J's back.
But you want to talk about a character who doesn't care that there's literally 5 dead people around him.
Yeah,
Baby,
yeah.
I
If
got it. Erotic thriller. Like,
yeah,
okay.
well, this is what I want. This is I would have loved it if this movie pulled a Hostel and Laurie dies, but then LL Cool J finds her body and he carries on the last like half hour of the movie and becomes the hero.
I mean, oh God, Laurie Strode. How do you think she's enjoying like life in prison for what she does at the end of this movie?
Oh yeah, I again like this movie goes into La La movie land where it's like there's no consequences for what she's doing. It doesn't like this is where I'm like, I don't fucking care about the lore of these movies. Laurie's gonna steal a fucking ambulance, drive off a cliff, and decapitate Michael. Just go with it, bro. Just go with it. It's all good.
She,
It's
I mean, I know there are that Michael forces her to drive off the road, but ostensibly she steals an ambulance so she could like execute Michael in the forest.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
really what it comes down to. But I do love it. I do love how no mercy it is. I do like how pro strong godlike final girl this movie is of they're
Just
reaching out their hands to each other and then she like drops her hand and then slices off his head. I just motioned I just
I
motioned that
think
in
I
my
heard
room
it. I
and
think I
like
heard it.
my vape pen just like flew against a door. I was
I
getting
heard it.
animated about this. Maybe I do love this movie. I was getting pretty animated there. But yeah, just slices off his head and then turns around and like takes a few deep breaths of like success, or like I've overcome my demon, I've killed my monster. And then we get that cool dun 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 end
Yeah.
credits. I do like how harshly it ends. I think it was fine. It was like cool. I mean, at this point, Laurie Strode is the boogeyman in this. Like, not the boogeyman, but Laurie Strode is the one who has power in this movie. I like
Yeah.
that so much. Even more so than Halloween 28. Well, more so than maybe most final girls of history, in that like you're not worried about her.
Mm.
You're not worried about Laurie Strode in this movie. This is
I I think
Michael's
part of
reckoning.
that is that the intent is that she transitions from like a person to a kind of a piece of an iconography to a symbol, more like a concept than a person, but in a way that empowers her, I think,
Yeah,
which is interesting. Um, yeah. It's interesting. I did like the decapitation. That was good.
Hmm.
I do like that you still have to see those the goddamn eyes after she decapitates him.
There must be something with Steve Miner going out of his way to humanize these boogeymen, since every time he
Yeah.
shows them, we see the eyes so clearly. It's just
I
whether or
mean, I
not
think
that's necessary. It's
it makes
necessary in
sense.
H2O for sure. H2O, since it's like you said, they ghost faced him, like
Yeah,
he's
he's
kind of a rookie killer, like
yeah, because
first
like
time.
again, you watch the original and like Michael is one with his environment, which
He looks
thematically
so
makes sense in that
silly getting
film.
that fucking kitchen knife out of the drawer that like Laurie uses to shield herself. It looks so silly, just yanking like a cartoon character. I, I mean, I appreciate it because it well, I mean, probably by
Uh,
several intense degrees, gives deification to Laurie Strode over Michael Myers in the last 30 minutes.
this is kind of my thing is I even if I don't really love this movie, like more than anything, I respect just be willing to shit on it. Like it's the movie exists. If you're gonna make a new Halloween movie, make Michael a bitch. Make Laurie a completely different character. Do whatever you want with it. Make it something different. Make it something you haven't seen before. Don't
You see,
you know?
I'd agree with that if Rob Zombie
Well,
wasn't didn't exist.
I love those
That's
movies.
I know,
And
but that's taking that thought and going
I'd actually
uh,
argue he's pretty in tune with the original's iconography, just in a very 2000s way. Um, and I sympathize with the Laurie and Zombies film so much, just because, God, she suffers in that movie.
I just
Halloween
feel
2,
like
that is, not 1.
H2O. I personally think H2O is a great slasher movie. I know a lot of people just think it's okay. I think it's great, and I do
Yeah.
love it. I think it would be a classic if they just fucking let Kevin Williamson write the whole thing. I don't know why.
This, I, I,
It's
I
clear
don't
they
know if
took
it's,
his thesis, like the revenge of Laurie Strode, is what this is
I,
completely.
I don't know if it would be like fully him or like, I think he would fix it or even like any other writer, just like anyone that kind of fleshes everything out. Because for me, a lot of the problem is just it's feels really half considered in a lot of places, like both the victims, like the teenagers, a lot of the plot points. It just feels like I was like, yeah, I see what they're doing, but I feel like the script wasn't finished in a way, or like it wasn't fully, you know, fleshed out, expanded. And so I can see that. I can see that. I think Williamson or even anyone else getting a hold of the script, doctoring it, and putting it together would make a world of a difference, I think.
Yeah,
But
I despair to think what it was like without the.
yeah, exactly. Because he just like injected. He knew how to make something that was good.
Yeah,
Entertainment. Good is something that functions, something that worked. He's a good writer. So I imagine the original script kind of just had even more fragmented ideas, fragmented character arcs, fragmented everything, and he
because
just
like
tried to like stitch together the pieces. Uh,
exactly. The question of how to deconstruct Halloween is just actually reconstructing Laurie Strode or actually constructing her for the first time.
yeah, I think they could have done more to kind of I don't want to say degrade, but play with the iconography of the series because I think Laurie and Michael are a big part of it, but I also think a big part of Halloween's whole, thing is the suburban element, the fact that
Right.
Michael is something that birthed from suburbia. He's synonymous. He's like the evil line underneath suburbia. That's why, like in the first movie, when Laurie's like banging on doors, no one comes to help her. It's because they're all, that those are the kind of people that birth Michael. And so I think that's like an essential part, not in the sense that like I wish they did that again, but like I kind of wish they played with that, you know
Yeah,
like
it's
it
definitely a
just happened.
class change. It's like upper middle class, if not completely wealthy people in this movie.
Yeah, like why does it take place in the school? I don't know. It just happens to take place. Yeah, like it's a cool aesthetic. They get cool
Yeah.
outfits. It gives you a clearly defined sense of space, right? Like you
Hmm.
know how to navigate the school grounds. So like functionally it makes sense. But like ideologically I don't, it just happens to be a school. And I would have liked if they kind of played with that more, I think.
Sure.
Kind of
And I think it
manipulated the
differentiates it
iconography.
from It definitely differentiates it from the other Scream clones of the time.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
this is the prep school movie or whatever. I don't know. I
And to be
just
fair, I
like I
think
said, I like the aesthetic really.
the trend of the time was like schools more, because like I feel like maybe I'm just thinking of like the slashers I know, but when I think of like the early slashers like Halloween 2, Texas Chainsaw, Friday the 13th, they don't they typically take place like not in a school. So, and I feel
Yeah,
like a lot of 90s slashers take place in a school. Uh, you know,
yeah.
faculty, Scream 2, stuff like that. Like it's a common thing. I think it was because people just liked high school TV shows and movies.
Or Williamson problematically brought the violence to school.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both because of course he did do a TV show about teenagers. So I think
Yes, he did. Love him. Genius.
I think it makes sense that like the time the slashers were obsessed with school as a setting. It makes sense. Although I
So
think faculty did it better.
I think the faculty did it better too. I think this could have been on a faculty level
Well,
if
yeah,
they
because the
had a more
faculty
clear manifesto.
faculty takes place in a school, and near the end they shoot a teacher in the face.
It's
Like,
brilliant. Holy shit, it's so good. But I don't know. This one jacked me up a bit too. um,
yeah, guaranteed to jack you up.
Twofold question for you before we end this. Where do you think its place in both horror history and like the Halloween legacy
Oh
is?
God, I couldn't tell you that. I feel like Halloween has forgotten it more or less, considering Halloween
Yeah,
2018 exists. Horror as a whole, to be honest, it just feels like a one of the side movies of the time. Because I think as if we're talking about like the major players of this era of horror, I think of Scream, even Final Destination, because Final Destination, God, that invaded culture. I feel like
I
maybe
almost
that's
feel
just me.
like this movie kind of legitimized also the Williamson slasher movie in the eyes of a lot of people.
Oh, like
Um,
where people started to realize it was a trend.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think it
can see that.
legitimized how deep it already is in horror culture that Michael is doing that.
Yeah, it makes I can see that because again, like I said at the beginning, I got whiplash watching this, and it makes sense because I when I watched it, it wasn't just that it was 90s aesthetics, although that was a big part of it. It was just like seeing 90s aesthetics compared to 70s aesthetics. It was night and day, the
Yeah,
difference. It was like a whole different world. Like God, the original film, like I said, it's entirely the theme song, like the same looping theme song. Whereas this one, you open with Mr. Sandman, and then every other scene you get this orchestral 90s Hollywood score, like, which isn't
yeah,
necessarily good or bad. I'm not saying like that makes or breaks a movie. I'm saying like it's just the aesthetic difference is obvious. It's like this is a completely different era for horror, and I think that makes that clear. So I guess as far as like its place in horror, I don't think it marked any changes. I don't think it necessarily revealed anything, but if you watch it, it's
yeah.
emblematic of the period that birthed it. It's as 90s as it gets. You
Yeah,
watch
it's
it.
weird. It didn't mark any changes, or it wasn't like a huge, significant moment in this time period. But I can't imagine this set of films, which we've said is like are actually rather limited. Like there's like only a real few of them. I couldn't
Uh,
imagine this era without Halloween H2O. I think it's kind of definitive of the era, even like even though it didn't do a whole lot, because like you
yeah,
said, it is incredibly 90s and not in a way that the faculty is. It's not like we're pummeled with the offspring. It is just the
it,
aesthetic of 90s or
yeah. The way
visual language of 90s really.
yeah, the way a shot is framed, the way they color a shot, the way they edit a shot, it's overwhelmingly 90s. God, like the opening credits are take place over your, detective, pinboard of
Yep.
lines linking a picture of Michael to a picture of Laurie Strode on the wall, like that scene from Always Sunny. It's as 90s
Yep.
as it gets.
And to some people as 90s as it gets is a turnoff. For me, oh my god, give it to me. I open up my mouth, feed me. I'm a baby bird, bro. Like yeah, I love it. That makes it sound good. Any closing remarks on this? I just
No,
thought it was a very good movie and glad
no,
you talked about it with me.
yeah, of course. I think we covered it.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for listening or watching. I mean, I despair to think you're just sitting there watching a still image for 5 minutes until it changes. But if you did, then you're great. You're amazing. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. And we'll be back in a little bit to talk about another scary movie. So stay tuned.